Hi, today after a long time I'm making an art journal page. You can see it's getting quite thick, and here is a quick flip through my art journals. I've shared videos on all of them. Before I start, I always glue two pages together. This makes them thicker and easier to work with. First of all, using a gel medium by Claudine Helmuth, I am going to cover my surface with tissue paper by Tim Holtz. So I'm just applying gel medium here all over my pages. And this is the tissue tape that comes in rolls. It's very easy to use and it adds lots of texture on your pages. Now using my scissors or by hand, I'm cutting out all the excess. This is Gesso by Bob Ross. I find that this gesso is more liquid than the rest in the market, so I like to use them to cover my pages. I am applying gesso to prepare my surface and also because I want this text to be more in the background. I want this to be faded. This is a wet baby wipe, and now I'm going to use my heat gun and dry my pages, and it's not as white as it seems. If you can see here, you can totally see through the white gesso. Now that everything is dry, I'll be using my distress paints, and I'm actually going to use a couple of the metallics. So first I will apply on the edges the walnut stain. And just spraying with some water there. Using my brush, I'm spreading the color towards the center. Now I'm going to use one of the metallics, which is called antiqued bronze, and it adds lots of shimmer on my page. I wish you could see that color, it's gorgeous. So I'm just spreading again, and you'll see that I'm damping with a paper towel, and that adds a lot of texture, as you can see. This is going to be my base color. After he's setting this color, it will not react with everything I put on top. So now I'm working again on the edges with walnut stain, and again I will add antiqued bronze on the center. And using my baby wipe, I'm blending everything together. The background came out better than I planned. It is textured and looks like leather, and I'm very pleased with the outcome. So I'm now just using my heat gun to dry everything. Now I'm using modeling paste, and you can also use embossing paste for the same effect. I am mixing my embossing paste with distress paint, and the color I'm using is tarnished brass. It's one of the metallics and has a golden look. And now by using my palette knife and a stencil, I'm adding some texture. And this is the final outcome on my background. I'm putting the journal on the side, and now I'll be working with this Tim Holtz die and my tags. You can use just any paper. I prefer these manila tags because they are very heavy and take distressing and distress paints perfectly. So I'm going to cut a bunch of those leaves, and I'll catch you later on when everything is cut. Now my leaves are all cut, and I'm browsing through my Tim Holtz collection, and here are the blueprints from autumn stamp set. And these don't perfectly match with the die cuts, but they are perfect to add some texture. And so I'm just going to stamp on top using archival ink. I'm using archival ink because I'm going to distress, add water and whatever comes to mind. But I want the stamped image to stay as is and not react with all the layers I'll be adding. Now I continue to stamp all the leaves using the different stamps that are included in the set. Now that everything is ready, I'll be using my distress inks to color all the leaves, and you'll see later on I'll be adding barn door also. So I'm just wiping the ink pads on my craft sheet, and then I'm going to spray some water. So this is the water, and now I'll just swipe the leaves on top, and this will create a watercolor look. This was so much fun. I totally enjoyed while doing this. So I'll continue doing this for all the leaves, and here they are all together. And now I'll apply distressing using my finger dabbers. I'm just picking the colors that are already in the background. And although I did this for all the leaves, it's not as time consuming as it looks. And after all, I enjoy inking, so I didn't mind. It's so relaxing for me. And here are all the leaves ready. I'm just spraying some water on my hand, and then adding splashes of water here and there. This adds a great texture and makes it more imperfect, just like it should be. Now I'm just adding some walnut stain on the edges. And using my white distress paint and a small brush, I'm going to add some white splashes. This is walnut stain distressing on the edges. And here I'm applying black distress paint to create my border. And just because this art journal is about fall, I'm going to add the leaves that I prepared earlier, but I want to add pumpkin. And I didn't have a pumpkin stamp, so I decided to draw it myself. It's not difficult to draw a pumpkin, you just make an oval and then split the oval. So since this was so easy to make, after cutting out this bigger pumpkin, I'm going to create a smaller one using exactly the same technique. I am also stamping a couple of acorns from the Tim Holtz blueprint collection, autumn blueprint collection. And I'm also using archival ink because I am not sure what I'm going to do on top of this ink, and I want this to stay as is and not react with all the added layers. Now, by using my Copic marker, a brown Copic marker, I'm just drawing the lines. This is a text stamp, and I'm going to stamp on top of the pumpkins to add some texture also. So now let's go to the fun part. I'm going to color the pumpkins using my gelatos. I'm adding a couple of shades of green and a couple of orange shades, the lighter one in the center and the darker one towards the splits. Using a wet baby wipe, I'm blending all the colors together. Now I'm adding gel medium on top of my pumpkins, and this will make the surface non-porous. I'm doing this because I want to use my artist Faber-Castell markers, and I want to move around, like I'm doing here, to move around the color before it dries. Time to put everything together. I'm trying out my layout, adding the leaves and the pumpkins here and there, and once I'm ready, I am then going to use my gel medium and glue everything on top of my page. I'll catch you up when everything is glued. Now that everything is glued in place, I'm using my Tim Hole scissors to cut out everything that sticks out, and also adding some walnut stain where everything is cut, because I don't want to have any white edges. I'm also using a small brush with my white distress paint to add some white splashes. These are tickets by Tim Holtz, and I'm just picking out a couple of them. I'm distressing them using walnut stain, and also I'll be adding a splash of spiced marmalade in the center. Now I'm looking for my paper clips. I want to add one on each of the tickets, and then by using some gel medium, I'm going to stick them on my layout. Time to color the acorns. I'm using distress ink again to color them. And again, by using gel medium, I'm going to stick them in place. I'm adding glossy accents on top of the acorns. It looks a bit milky now, but it will dry totally clear. And now I'm looking for a wood veneer in my wood veneer collection for a small heart. I'm thinking how I'm going to color this, so I finally decided to use my distress paint. Super easy to do it with the distress paint. And now that it's dry, I'm using a bit of glossy accent on the back to stick it on my pumpkin, and then on top to make it glossy. These are chipboard alphas, and I'm using again distress paint to color them. This color is mustard seed, and I'm trying everything. Now I'm going to use my crackle paint. I'm applying a generous amount of this medium on top of the letters, and I let it dry for a while. I didn't use my heat gun because I think it bubbles when you do that. Now that everything is dry, I'm adding distress ink on. The distress ink on top adds a gorgeous effect, and you have to check out the photos at the end of the video to see the texture and how amazing it looks. Now I'm just distressing the edges, and then using my glossy accent, I'm gluing all the letters on my layout. Using these black alphabet stickers, I'm going to write my quote. This is green thread and I am covering it with glossy accents. Once it's dry, it becomes harder. And now that I wrap it around the back of my brush, it keeps its shape. And here are the vines of my pumpkins. I'm just cutting out little pieces and I'll stick them on top of my pumpkins. And finally, just because my quote said so, I'm adding some gold stickles on the dots and on my leaves. And this was the layout for today. I hope you had fun and enjoyed the video, although it was too long. I had so much fun making this page and I think it's one of my favorites I've done so far. Thank you all for watching and see you on Sunday with another video.